As someone who hasn't published really anything that big, this is a really big question of mine. If I'm supposed to have a website, what do I put on it if I'm not an author? Luckily, I have some answers. Hi there, my name is Lauren. I'm currently working as a book launch account manager, and I have also written a book that I'm working to get published, so using both my personal knowledge and professional knowledge, I combined the two to create the content that you see on this channel. So every website should have these pages. You should have a home page, you should have a contact page, you should have an about page, and maybe even have a blog page, but you should definitely have a blog if you're trying to position yourself to be viewed as an author or someone in the literary field. So you can think of your homepage as your front door. When someone knocks on your door and they open it and they see you standing there, like, what kind of impression do you want them to get? Like, they're gonna be looking behind you, kind of checking out, like, ooh, what is their house like? You wanna make sure that everything is kind of placed the way that you want it to in order to portray the most accurate portrait of who you are and the kind of work that you'd like to be doing. One great way to greet your visitors is to upload just a quick video introducing both yourself, your website, and maybe even how to navigate it. So on my website, I kind of have my welcome video playing in the background, just kind of like automatically on a loop without sound. And then I have a headline kind of on top of it describing basically what I do and what I'm about. And then they have the option to watch the whole video if they want. And I think that's what's really important, is to give people options. You don't have to watch this video, but if you do, it's available to you. Whereas, if it's like a pop-up or it automatically starts playing, for me, that's kind of a turn off. It's like I didn't want this to begin with. I didn't even choose to have this playing, and it's just, for me, that stuff kind of comes off as annoying. It's best to not be that person. It's also important to include a call to action. And this is especially important for if you're new and starting out. It's a lot easier to kind of put something like that in place when you're already established, like, buy my book, subscribe to my podcast, like stuff like that. But if you're new, really new, it's kind of hard to get creative. So I have some options for you. You can do a newsletter. I wasn't even sure if I should do a newsletter, but you really should. If you're wanting to be an author, you're an aspiring author, just a writer, it's at least some kind of incentive. It's like you're providing value by offering this free newsletter of insights from your industry that you work in, your projects that you're working on, general knowledge that you have about a certain field. That stuff can be pretty valuable to someone. Or if you don't want to do that, there's always just the simple, like, watch my YouTube channel, go follow me on social media. Either one of those totally works. It's a very simple call to action. I have three: my newsletter, my social media, and my YouTube, but you don't want to spread yourself too thin, that's for sure. You don't want to burn out. You want to provide, especially if you're new and you're starting out, you want to provide as much social proof as possible. So what I mean by social proof is just to prove people that you are actively working toward your goal. So on my website, I've included logos of some of the different businesses that I've published through. There's really not that many, but it counts for something. How was it down there?
Fine.
You want to say hi?
Oh, hello.
You gotta bend down. Get your face in there. Yeah, get out. Don't bother me. I don't want to talk to you. Go away.
Okay.
And it never hurts to provide resources. If there's something you want, if there's something else you want to put on your website, but you don't know what, you can always just do resources. That could be like stuff that you've used, like books, websites, webinars, recordings, YouTube videos, whatever that has helped you out personally, kind of pay it forward. You can put it on a resources page and just, if anyone happens to visit, then they have some value that they can take with you from your website. Also, each page should answer an immediate question that you anticipate your visitor to have. So if they're like, who is this person? Like, you might want to put more of like kind of what you're about, what you're like, generally what you do on the homepage, and then maybe on your about page you get a little more specific, which brings me pretty nicely into my next little bullet point, which is, what should I include on my about page? According to Jane Friedman, who is a fabulous resource for writers, she says that it's best to include about 200 to 300 words describing who you are, as well as what you do and what your goals are, stuff like that. It never hurts to humanize yourself. So by that I mean include pictures of yourself, videos, maybe action shots of you, candid photos, anything that kind of tells more of a story outside of your website of who you are. That's always kind of nice to see. It's like, oh, they're not just like some sketchy person with only one headshot, like they actually have a life. And the way that I organized my about page was I liked to make it a little interactive. So I had these like drop-down menus that explain like different parts of who I am, so people don't have this big paragraph to read, because people want a lot of information as quickly as possible. So hence why videos are such a good resource, or why, sections or bullet points or drop-down menus are always helpful. So for me, I have like one drop-down menus for my background, one drop-down menus for my current life, and another's for my goals. And there may be just a couple paragraphs each. Next is your contacts page. There's really not a lot of magic you need to do there. It helps to provide a location generally of where you're at. You don't have to include like where you're living, but like, for example, I'm in Chicago, so that's the location that I'm using on my contact page if anyone's like, oh, I wonder like where she's out of. Sorry folks, my my camera ran out of batteries. My battery ran out of battery. Come on, Lauren. And if you want, you can even link your social media profiles out on that page, just so it's like another reminder for people like, hey, if you want to get in touch, I'm also available on these platforms. And a fourth page that is beneficial to have if you're trying to position yourself as an up-and-coming author is to have like a projects / publications page. If you've already gotten some smaller publications under your belt, like I've published for a small magazine and an academic website for part of a class, like anything counts. So any small publication work that you've done, make a page just for that. Otherwise, if you don't have that and you're like really super brand new, definitely include some of the projects that you are currently working on and or projects that you've worked on in the past. If you've done past work, it's best to make sure that it's as recent as possible. Otherwise, I would really kind of start to get your foot in the door with things that you could be doing to work towards your authorship. Oh my gosh. Oh, I forgot to turn my light on. That's not good. I'm sorry for the inconsistency. So if you're someone who is needing more small publishing works under your belt, definitely take a look at freelancing. I went on Upwork to make this little small travel guide book that I made. It's like a really tiny book, but it still counts as a book. Which kind of helps leverage my name a little bit more. So definitely check on Upwork. There's a couple other websites too that I can't think of off the top of my head, but I know of them. So I'll put them in the description box below with the links so that you can just hop right over. There are two things you want your website to accomplish. One of them is being experiential for anyone who comes across it. And the other is providing as much social proof as possible, even if you haven't really published anything major under your name, to show people that you are legit. Now, when it comes to an experiential website, making a website that is very attractive to whoever comes across it, I think the trick with this, just based on what I've picked up personally and in my line of work, is that you want to offer people options. People don't like things to be automatically done for them, like while they're on a website. They want to have the ability to pick and choose what they interact with. If you upload a video, you don't want it to automatically start playing because it's like, whoa, hold on, that's like too much. Like I don't need that right now. I want to focus on this. It's allowing people options is I think what the magic sauce is. So that could mean like, visual graphics. That could mean just clicking on arrows, flipping through stuff, buttons. Like people like buttons. I mean, even in real life, pushing buttons. There's a certain satisfaction that comes with clicking or pushing a button. And another way to provide an experience for people who come on your website is to provide videos or pictures of you in action. Now, if you don't have like any materials like that, that's okay. You can literally, if you want action shots of like you at a speaking engagement, you can just find a place in your house that looks more professional, go outside, go to a museum or whatever, and literally just put your camera on self-timer and pretend like you're talking to someone, because no one's gonna know the difference. You can also have just a camera roll that just kind of like flips through pictures, Definitely link your social media profiles, especially the ones that you are most active on. I really only mess around with Instagram. I used to have a Facebook, but I deleted that, and I don't really use Twitter. I probably should, but Instagram is like where it's at. So like that's what I'm going to be advertising the most, because that's where all of my activity is. And I want people to see that like I'm active, I'm social, like I've got a life. Just you want to seem as human as possible. You just want to produce a very well-rounded image of yourself. But there are businesses out there that can develop your entire website for you if you want. In fact, that's exactly what my business does. I'll link their information below. Otherwise, you can just DIY it, and that's what I did. Now, in terms of social proof, this is kind of where you want people to know what you're about, that you're serious about your craft, about your business, about what services you provide. You want to show people that you have what it takes to take on bigger projects than what you're currently working on. And like I've said, a great place to start is with some of those smaller publications. Now, this is to help address that earlier thing that I put a pin in of like, oh my God, how you can build some of that social proof, some options that you have. And one of them that I mentioned was freelancing. If you're in school, like in college, you can ask your professors if there's any publications, academic, that they know of that would be willing to accept new writers. You could maybe co-author something with someone. That almost happened to me in college, and I was so excited about it, and then nothing ever happened. And I remember being like, man, that's a missed opportunity. It was outside my control though, not that that matters. Or you could even get in touch with anyone who's like in your school newspaper, you know, like student journalists or something. They're always looking for stories, and I'm sure that you'd be able to contribute something. Otherwise, you can offer to write for a neighborhood magazine. That's one thing that I did. I actually got an email from like a coffee shop who used to hold poetry readings or something, asking for submissions for a neighborhood magazine. So reach out to any local magazines. Usually publications that are more local, smaller, really are more open to new submissions from new people. You can also look at smaller magazines, not just local magazines, but there is one called O Reader magazine that I randomly found at Barnes & Noble and I happen to like. So there you go, that's a free idea. Their whole magazine is based on, what is their slogan? It's like for readers by readers, and it's a magazine about reading. So it's a little bit meta, but it's just like the different relationships and experiences that people have with reading, with literature, with writing, anything related to that. They're still pretty small, but they're growing, so I would recommend them. Brainstorm a list of any and all magazines you've ever seen or heard of or read or been privy to. It's much easier to submit materials for a magazine if you're actually aware of the stuff that they publish. Whatever you decide to do in terms of small publications, do a little bit of research behind what they're like, stuff that they publish, just so that they know that you're in alignment with the materials that they have, which will increase your chances of them saying, yeah, hey, we'd love to have you write for us. And without sounding too much like your resume, you can list out any relevant accomplishments or awards you've earned from writing. If you've, you know, gotten an award for writing something in high school, you can do that. If you were like editor of the year at your school's newspaper, include that. Utilize anything you have that is relevant to writing, what you're trying to do. Put that on your website in a very humanized way as you can. That came out real clunky, but I hope you know what I'm talking about. So if there are 3 things to take away from this, things that I've also personally learned, it's that it really helps to have an online presence somewhere. You don't really need social media in order to meet your publication goals, but it definitely helps, especially when you're starting out. Again, it's all about that social proof. Getting smaller publications under your belt, that is more attractive to agents if you're looking to go the traditional publishing route. It just is kind of like, okay, like they're aware of kind of how things work. Thirdly and lastly, just be willing to put in the work, because it's going to be a lot of work. I've been working at it for like 2 or 3 years trying to get my book off the ground as a very new person. And it's hard, especially if you don't know anyone. So I absolutely get it. I mean, if you want to do it right, you're going to have your work cut out for you. So at least be willing to show up and do the work. So if you want more information on what to include in a website, how to build one out, especially if you're an unpublished writer, I've got a Jane Friedman article that I've read and highlighted and written down in my notebook a couple times actually, that I will also link in the description below. I want to make sure that I'm giving you as much support as possible. Her articles are awesome. She's pretty much got topics on everything you could imagine. Wouldn't you know it, my camera died again. Be sure to like and subscribe this video. Also consider checking out my website. I have very similar content on my website as the content that you see on my channel. I also have a weekly newsletter. So if that is of interest to you, please consider subscribing to that, and I will see you next time. Take care.